the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. The oath of office. All right. Marilyn and Michelle, please stand. Raise your right hands, and you'll just have to say, I will. Do you, Marilyn Hamilton and Michelle Botock, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as members of the Board of Education of Leetonia Exempted Village School District in Columbiana County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I will.
Okay, good, thank you. Election of officers. Nominations. Okay.
I'll nominate Mike for president, Mike Henderson.
Second.
Second. I'll second.
Nominations for vice president. Oh, sorry. I thought maybe we would do it after the oath. Sorry.
I'll nominate Larry Duco.
Second.
Okay. Mike and Larry, please write this. Okay. Just say I will after I say this. Do you, Michael Henderson and Larry Duco, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as president or vice president in and for the Leetonia Exempted Village School District, Columbiana County, Ohio, to the best of your abilities and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is chosen and qualified?
I will.
So we'll do roll call, and we're going to let Larry take over.
Mike will take
Mike,
Mike.
sorry, Mike. So let's go with Mr. Duca,
Here.
Mrs. Botock,
Here.
Mr. Henderson,
Here.
Mrs. Allison,
Here.
and Mrs. Merritt. Okay. All right.
So now we need to set the time, please, time, date, and place for regular board meetings.
May I,
Yeah.
before you, I gave, there were a number of dates for the calendar year 2024. Obviously, these can be flexible. If you know in advance, this would be the time to do it. If you see some dates that aren't going to work, be the time to change them tonight, but not to say that you couldn't do it some other time within your normal standards. You can see February through December. The one that's probably the one that's a little bit out of line is the June 18th one. I know we like to do it a little closer to the end of the fiscal year, and that may change as we get closer, depending on board action. 6 o'clock p.m. here, at this point, room 204.
That works for me. Those are all good for me.
As we sit here today.
The only one I question is the June 18th. I'm not sure. I'll be out of town. But I'm not sure. So
You can look at it as it gets
Sure.
closer to
Yep.
see what will work better.
It's hard when it's this far out, 6 months out, to make that decision.
motion.
Yes, so motion.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Merritt? Yes. Mrs. Bertram?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes. Moving on to the service fund.
You can read it if you like, and just a reminder for the board and even the audience that may be watching, that tonight is 2 meetings in one, our organizational meeting and the regular meeting. This meeting first kind of allows us all to take care of board business so we can perform our duties throughout the course of the year. There's some standing resolutions in here that we'll be asking the board to approve. The first of many of the resolutions tonight for the reorganizational meeting is the service fund, and that, I'll read it, whereas it provides for the setting aside from the general fund a sum not to exceed $2 for each child enrolled, or $20,000, whichever is great. Such sum of money to be known as the service fund, which shall be used only in paying expenses that the board actually incurred in the performance of their duties or their official representation, or in paying the expenses of members-elect of such board of education actually incurred in training or in orientation to the performance of their duties from the date or election to the date of administration of oath of office. An example would be, we talked about PD, professional development, OSBA capital conference. Those trainings would be taken out of the service fund. Any questions for Jen or I on that?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bertram?
Yes.
Mrs. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Duca?
Yes.
Five, authorize.
Okay, so for 5, I'm gonna do A, B, and C and D together. For A, we will authorize each board member to elect at his or her own expense to participate in the employee benefits program as are extended to district employees. B, authorize the treasurer to pay the state of Ohio minimum wage to those individuals that are paid under the minimum wage provision. C, appointment of school attorney, legal services. Resolve that recommendation by the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education appoint attorney John Poderski as the attorney for the 2024 calendar year. The district will also use other firms as needed. And D, travel reimbursement. Approve the mileage rate set by the Internal Revenue Service for travel for school district business, and lodging and mill rates to be set according to policy 6330.
Motion.
Second. Any questions? Mr. Duca?
Yes.
Mrs. Merrick?
Yes.
Mrs. Bertram?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrelson?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes. Now on to committee assignments.
Okay, I have 6A, and this committee assignments for 2024 OSBA. And there's 2 liaisons. There's a legislative liaison and a student achievement liaison. We've had, some of you have been on some of the same committees. There was discussion about perhaps changing some of these committee memberships. This will be the time for you as we go through here, and I'll just read them out loud and then determine how you'd like to serve. The 2 liaisons, legislative and student achievement. Mr. Duco, your term, correct me if I'm not, you're in the middle of a 3-year at the CCTC?
Yes, I am.
So that would not be up at this point. We have policy and guidelines, academic, building and grounds, insurance committee, athletic council. Do you have any interest in the legislative liaison and the student achievement liaison?
I can do that.
You just need one, or do you need?
There is a legislative one. I don't think it's on here as such, but I don't know if we've used it much, if any. So we could stay with just the one. It's up to you as a board. Student achievement liaison would just be one.
You want to do that? I mean, if you want to do it, I'll
Sure.
do it. It doesn't
No,
matter.
I'll do it,
Mrs.
absolutely.
Merritt, okay. Mr. Duca's already in the representative for the CCTC. Policy and guidelines. 2 for that.
Was I on that one?
Mike and myself were on that last year. I mean, I'd gladly stay on it if anyone else wants to get on it. I mean, I'll serve on any of these, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I'm fine with staying on it.
Mr. Duco and Mr. Henderson? Academic?
That was myself and Dan.
Yeah, I would like to.
Mrs. Huddleston?
I can do academic if we want to change, but if you, Mr. Duca, would rather keep it consistent, I'm fine with that as well.
That doesn't matter to
However,
me.
I'll be happy to do it
Okay.
though.
Mrs. Merritt, right?
Sure.
Building and grounds?
I'd like to stay on that one.
I'd be
Anderson?
interested in that.
Mrs. Votak? Insurance committee?
I can do that.
Mr. Duco?
Is one enough or do you need two?
There's two.
I'll take it.
Mrs. Huddleston? And lastly is the athletic council.
I wouldn't mind being on that. I haven't been on that.
Mr. Duco, and one more,
I'd like to. I'd be
Mrs.
interested.
Votak. So please correct me if I'm not correct, correct here. Mrs. Merritt, Student Achievement Liaison, Mr. Duco is the CCTC representative. Policy and Guidelines, Mr. Duco and Mr. Henderson. Academic, Mrs. Huddleston and Mrs. Merritt. Building and Grounds, Mr. Henderson and Mrs. Votak. Insurance, Mr. Duco, Mr. Henderson. And Athletic, Mr. Duco and Mrs. Votak. Do you have
Motion.
I will make motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Duca?
Yes.
Mrs. Merritt?
Yes.
Mrs. Votak?
Yes.
Mrs. Huddleston?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes.
I mentioned, there's standing resolutions, Mrs. Cold Snow is gonna do the first 10, is that correct, Jen? A10,
Yes,
and I'll do the other ones under B.
Okay, so we're gonna do 7A 1 through 10, standing resolutions for the treasurer, to secure advances from the auditor when funds are available and payable to the school district for first and second half settlements, to invest funds whenever funds are available, to pay all bills within the limits of the appropriations as bills are received, and when the merchandise service has been received in good condition and in a timely manner, to increase appropriations as needed with board approval at next meeting, to borrow such funds as may be necessary to meet the expenses of the district within the confines of Ohio law, to sign payroll checks and other board warrants, to attend such professional meetings that may be relevant to the job responsibilities and required in order to retain the certifications or that contribute to professional development or are deemed beneficial to the fiscal operations of the district, to open bank accounts as needed, to serve as public records designee, and to purchase liability insurance for board, employees, and support organizations.
Would you like to combine that, Mr. Anderson, or just vote on that one separately?
No, we could,
Combine. 7B, is standing resolutions of the superintendent. The board authorizes the superintendent to follow these resolutions regarding the Leetonia Exempted Village School District. 1, to serve as a purchasing agent for the school district. 2, to employ such temporary personnel as may be needed for emergency situations, such as employment, shall be presented for approval by the board at its next regular meeting. 3, to approve school district participation in state or federal programs in which it is now participating in, and other governmental programs, community programs, or privately sponsored programs as may be necessary or useful to the pupils, staff, or other legitimate concerns of the board. Number 4, to approve the attendance of teachers, administrators, or other school employees in his own attendance at professional meetings and conferences. 5, to request, speak for, and vote on behalf of the board and consortia in which it participates. 6, to perform other ministerial duties on behalf of the school district as are necessary for the operation of the district, acting in the capacity of chief administrative officer. And C, standing resolutions for both superintendent and treasurer. There's 2, authorize the superintendent and or treasurer to purchase the services of architects, attorneys, engineers, or other professional consultants from the School Board Association, the Buckeye Association of School Administrators, or other private professional consultants as may be necessary or useful to advise the board in matters of finance, personnel, contract development, insurance, computers, purchasing, or other legitimate matters affecting the Board of Education concerns. And two, lastly, authorize the superintendent and or treasurer to request to use the services of either or both of these management services. The Office of School Management Assistance of the State Department of Education, the Management Advisory Service of the Office of State Auditors, and or management services if and when they feel it is useful to do so.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Addison?
Yes.
Mr. Duca?
Yes.
Mrs. Wentworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Merritt?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes. Alright, any more discussion? We need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Duca?
Yes.
Mrs. Addison?
Yes.
Mrs. Merritt?
Yes.
Mr. Votak? Sorry, Mrs. Votak. It's gonna take me a while to get used to that, I apologize.
That's okay. Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes.
I've been doing well so far,
You did great, you did great.
but I knew I could mess it up.
We need to do steps 20 and B again.
Let's just do call to order, but we don't have to do the pledge. And we've already done roll call, so we won't do that either.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. And first item is approval of minutes.
Motion.
Second?
Discussion?
Mr. Duca?
Yes.
Mrs. Merritt?
Yes.
Mrs. Votak?
Yes.
Mrs. Addison?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes. Treasurer's reports.
Okay, for the meeting, we have donations received, $8,172.22 anonymous for school lunch accounts, $350 from Grace Church of Columbiana within their supplemental fund, $100 from Douglas and Jenny Morris for robotics fund in memory of Michelle Long, $100 from Ralph and Patricia Polite, robotics fund in memory of Michelle Long, $100 from Michael and Tracy Henderson, robotics fund in memory of Michelle Long, $10,000 from Robert Hendricks for stadium, $100 from Ray and Marilyn Henderson in memory of Gerald Van Fossen. One item to approve under financial items, tax budget for 2025 fiscal year, and accept and appropriate the following federal grants for fiscal year 24 as listed. And I missed the financial reports at the beginning of their worksheet. Sorry.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Discussion.
Jen, on the general fund, the over/under is 450,000.
Correct.
So, am I right in saying the 200,000 that we put into the PI, that's one of the reasons?
The reason why the general fund is under right now is because I'm waiting for ESSER to get approved and to reimburse some ESSER funds out. Once I do that, then the under will come back.
So we aren't really deficit spending.
Not currently, no. I've got school supplies and I've got salaries that are gonna be switched over to ESSER, but I can't do it until we get the
So
grant
those are
approved.
still in our.
Those are still all in the general fund, so once ESSER's approved, that is gonna look a lot different.
Okay, and so am I right in the 200,000 is still in that though?
When you're saying the 200,000,
You know, yeah,
are
we
you talking
transferred
about the
out of-
capital projects? No, it's not.
It's
been
not,
taken
okay,
out.
all right.
Correct, yes.
So it's not part of that 450?
No,
Okay,
it's not.
okay, thank you.
You're talking about the capital projects, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
that we-
yes.
yeah.
Yes, no, it's
Okay.
out, it's not part of that.
Okay.
That's only for the current fiscal year, what we've spent so far. And we transferred that money back in July. But, so it technically,
looks
it's
like it's
in the
there.
expense.
Okay,
It's in there as an expense, but it's been moved on to the capital projects fund.
okay.
If that answers your question,
Okay.
I hope.
Oh, no, the 450 is a true number, except when it'll clean up when you transfer ESSER.
Yes,
Okay,
yes it will.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion? May I have a motion?
Mr. Duca?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, we already did motion. Mr. Duca?
Yes.
Mrs. Merritt?
Yes.
Mrs. Votak?
Yes.
Mrs. Addison?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes. Public participation, Mr. Votak?
No.
Nice to see everyone again, though, thank you.
I'm good, thank you, Mike.
Alright, let's move on to the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you. Happy New Year once again to everyone. We've had a good start to the new calendar year. You just mentioned Lisa Lorch is here, and just a reminder, if we could, I don't believe we've had a board picture. I don't know, tell me how long. I think it'd be a good thing, so Lisa's here with her camera, if we could, after the meeting, in front of maybe the backdrop or someplace. Couple of things, we went over the donations, and I can't help but comment on the generosity of people in the community, outside the community, that have donated towards many causes. We had a large sum donation that was generated for our school lunch program, and again, any amount, little, small or large, is definitely appreciated, but worth mentioning. January, as you know, is School Board Appreciation Month. Want to publicly thank the board. Those who are sitting in here, I'm sure would echo my thoughts. The students benefit from what you do. The vision, your thought process certainly helps, your leadership. Our board dedicates and devotes a lot of time. I don't know the half of it. Sometimes phone calls, sometimes conversations that you have at events. It doesn't go unnoticed. I see that part. I'm just trying to not even build the case, but try to reference that the board does a lot in all school boards. This board is no exception. You do the exact same thing and spend a lot of time trying to move the district forward, and you're very successful at that. So based on that, and being that it is January Board Appreciation Month, we have certificates from Ohio School Board Association. I'd just like to pass out to everyone. First one is Jennifer Merritt. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
And I'll read it. In sincere appreciation for exemplary leadership and service to public schools for all of our board members. Mr. Henderson, thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hedelson, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Duco, thank you. And guess what, Mrs. Votan, you will have one.
Next year.
Know that.
Thank you.
Welcome. Let's see here. We have a district leadership team that was canceled yesterday. We had a 2-hour delay. It's called a DLT, and I've talked about this before. Just wanted to really try to roll this out a little bit, take 30 seconds. As part of our DLT focus, it's student enrollment. We're in a position where I think we need to raise awareness and focus on our student enrollment here in grades K through 12. We have students that come to us via open enrollment. We have students that leave us via open enrollment. We have students who are in our district that are homeschooled as well. What I'd like to do is work with the Board of Education, our district leadership team. K-Squared Marketing is a firm that we now use here, and you can see with the Facebook page and website and many of the things we do to promote many of the good things that we have here at Leetonia, to really promote and become impactful. And I think this is an initiative that when I first came here, the size of Leetonia and the ability to offer programs with the number of kids that we have, I think it is beneficial if we can, again, some of the students we may be going elsewhere, or students that just don't know what we have to offer here, is something I'd like to really focus on the next several months for the start of the 24-25 school year, in terms of the initiative to navigate through the enrollment process and how important this initiative is as far as the enrollment campaign. Lastly, you have a newsletter in front of you for the month of January. And I'll do one in June, which would be more of an annual report. And also I have chronic absenteeism. We talked about this the end of each 9 weeks. If you'd like to just pass that down, Mrs. Ellison, that would be great. If you have questions on that, be happy to answer those any other time, I guess, after you look them over. I know student achievement, Mr. Duco, do you have anything for the student achievement side?
We'll report on the CCCTC, our meeting is next week, so I'll have some information after that.
That's all I have. Do I have any questions I can answer from the report or anything I've mentioned, or anything that needs to be answered?
When's your next BLT meeting?
Next Thursday, the 18th.
So you'll be discussing.
Yes. And one of the, I actually had two individuals that would like to be part of it, and it was Mayor Sambita, and with the delay, we canceled it, and also Senator Rowley was going to come. I'm thinking Mayor Sambita is available, I don't think Senator Rowley is available to come next Thursday. He's available other days, but that Thursday was one that worked for everyone here. We'll get everybody back together and sort through it, yes, next Thursday.
On to new business personnel.
Okay. 7A and 8A and 9A, long-term substitute teacher, recommend extending Casey Harris as long-term sub-teacher in 5th grade at step 0 for the remainder of the 23-24 school year. She was approved through the first semester, would like to continue with Casey through second semester as she's still working on licensure for that particular class or grade level. 8A is supplemental contracts, approve the following supplemental applications for 23-24 pending all backgrounds and certifications. We have James Scragg and Thomas Palmer as co-head and co-assistant baseball coaches at step 4. Both coached last year. Nice gentlemen that are working with our kids and would recommend that we continue with both. And Patrick Hall is a volunteer boys basketball coach, as Patrick is volunteering his time to work with our varsity and JV players. And 9A, substitutes, approve the following subs for 23-24. Rachel Simon, she would be certificated and classified. Jacob Malott, certificated and classified. And Cynthia DeRocco, classified.
Motion?
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Merrick?
Yes.
Mrs. Huddleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowshaw?
Yes.
Mr. Duco?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes.
10A, new business students, second and final reading of the handbook modification back in December. I presented the first reading of the K-6 and 7-12 handbook modification. Reminder, this is for the vaping, for the cessation and the other programs that we have. So somewhat of a change. This is the second reading and final reading effective. This will go into effect January 16th. Yeah, stand alone vote on that one.
Motion?
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Merrick?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowshaw?
Yes.
Mr. Duco?
Yes.
Mrs. Huddleston?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes.
And 12A, B, and C, it's new business and operations. Leetonia Police Department Services, approved Village of Leetonia police officers rate $110 per sporting event. They work for a 23-24 school year. I mentioned K-Squared Marketing previously, renew the contract with K-Squared Marketing for 24, 25, 25, 26. We first entered into an 11-month consortium contract rate to see how it worked. As I mentioned, pleased with them, but I would recommend that contract with K-Squared. And then lastly, the Kent State University Memorandum of Understanding, approve the College Credit Plus Master Agreement between Kent State and Leetonia School District.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion.
I think K-Squared is doing a fabulous job. I really do, overall. And a question on the police officers. Who decides when to call upon them for a sporting event, and how often do we do that?
We have them for every varsity event other than our girls' varsity. Yeah, varsity boys. And a lot of it depends on the size of the crowd.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Football, yes.
Definitely.
Our dances, things of that nature, we do.
Good.
Roll call.
Mrs. Huddleston?
Yes.
Mr. Duco?
Yes.
Mrs. Merrick?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowshaw?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
Yes. All final discussion points?
I have a question on this $1,500 donation that was made by Believe in Dreams. Can you?
This goes back to one of our elementary students, published, had a publication. Again, to Believe in Dreams is granting wishes to kids that have, you may remember now.
Yes, mhm.
We were pretty fortunate, young lady that's involved in Believe in Dreams lives in Cleveland, is from the area. Mrs. Sharon Walters was very instrumental in obtaining the grant, the money, but that's used for PBIS and some of the things that we currently are using it for.
Okay. And speaking of PBIS, the elementary got a bronze award, did they?
K6 and 712 both got a
Oh, they
bonus.
both did. Good. Congratulations.
I know next month, NNPS, PBIS, ICE, we have a lot of folks coming here next month to talk.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dunham, I know the PBIS process is a lot of work, a lot of
It is,
documentation.
it is.
It definitely has significant benefits for the staff and students, but that is a huge accomplishment because it is
We're shooting for
difficult.
silver, that's the next one, that's where we're headed.
Any other items? Need a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Second.
Mrs. Mayer,
Yes.
Mrs. Helson,
Yes.
Mr. Duca,
Yes.
Mrs. Rocha,
Yes.
Mr. Henderson.
Yes.
Okay, Lisa, what do you think?